Stay all the way to the end because I have something for everyone that has joined here. And yeah, let's jump into spec-driven development. Now, throughout this slides that I'm giving today, you'll see this ghost on it. You'll be kind of bouncing up and down. So the idea is this is a part of a new product that we launched. I'm going to talk a little bit about it, and it goes directly in with spec-driven development. I'm Eric, by the way. I'm a senior developer advocate at AWS. So I get to play around with a lot of these cool technologies and come out and talk to you guys about it. By the way, did anybody see Dennis Ivy's talk earlier? I'm singling him out. Because he actually went over a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. So I'm glad some of you have not seen that, because this might be a little bit of a repeat on some of those things. So what is spec-driven development? Now, it's not Spectre like we see here. It's a little bit of a different idea. And by the way, throughout this talk, I'm going to give plenty of time at the end for questions, or I'll be out there to answer some more when we're done, depending on how long this goes. So it's a development approach where detailed, structured specifications are created before any code is written. And the way I like to think about that is that we're doing all the upfront work before we jump into the actual coding part. And this lends itself well to coding with AI agents. And we'll talk more about what that is all about. So for those who don't know, there's this idea of specs. So what are specs? And I'm going to give you another definition before we get too far in. So specs refers to the formal requirements, rules, and constraints that govern the creation and behavior of a system. Back in the day, I remember creating requirements documents and having this waterfall methodology that we know and loved. Anybody use the waterfall or have heard of it? It's kind of pre-agile, almost everyone. So you had to create these huge, large requirements documents with every little thing that you thought would be in this system that you're trying to create. And then you would have to have a development cycle where people just looked at that requirements document. They worked on it for perhaps weeks or months, and there was very little agile about it. Now, that didn't really work well when we found out that maybe we should have these smaller sprints, that need to be more agile, that requirements change quickly, and that we can break big tasks up into small pieces. However, with specs and with this spec-driven development, AI actually does really well if we create larger requirements documents and more detail, because it adds it to the context of the coding agents that we're using. And then it can more clearly and more thoroughly create the features and projects that we expected. So I just want to say that this is kind of the way I feel like it's kind of the future a little bit of what we're doing with these coding assistants. We're going to talk a little bit about vibe coding. We've had this vibe coding way of going back and forth, but maybe there's a better way where we can give the AIs a lot of context so it can do a better job at the output. So we actually had this problem at AWS. We're a huge company, an amazing amount of developers, and we had a lot of us internally using these tools, and then externally from our customers, we're using these coding agents and tools. And they were finding out that this vibe coding back and forth way wasn't providing exactly what they wanted. They wanted something more. And so a lot of our solution architects, a lot of the people internally found out there's a better way to kind of handle it, and we came up with a spec-driven development way of doing it. One of our early attempts at AI coding agents, I don't know, anybody here heard of Amazon Q at all? Okay, quite a few. So that is still going strong. That is kind of our first attempt at jumping into this space. We have an IDE extension. We also have, and it's for multiple different IDEs, we have a command line tool called Amazon Q CLI. It's sort of like Claude Code, or anybody try that new, what was it, Copilot? Copilot, CLI just came out. Things are moving so quickly. So it's similar to that, but we kept on hearing this kind of same thing as, like, we need to get it more context, and we need to have better results. So we created Kuro. Kuro is the new AI IDE assistant. We have this nice little mascot that's this bouncing, well, in this slide, it's a bouncing little ghost. So we actually kind of took a different idea. We weren't going to make this AWS Kuro or Amazon Kuro. It's just Kuro. So we really wanted to open up to all different developers out there, front-end, back-end, DevOps, anybody who wanted to use it. And we took our best learnings internally and externally and created this project with it. We launched a website, kuro.dev. We use Discord for our support. You can use social logins. You don't need anything to do with Amazon to even try this out. But we definitely tried a completely different approach while creating this product, because we as developers wanted a good tool that we can use internally and externally. But we've seen with this tool so much, it kind of blew us away. All the feedback we got from it within a couple of days. We had to put up a wait list because we had thousands and thousands of people trying to download it. And then people found a way around the wait list. And then we had to figure out ways to stop those people to get around the wait list as well. So it's been really fun seeing the community talk not just about Kuro, but this idea of using spec-driven development with their AI coding agents. And this is in progress. And by the way, if you want to try this out today and you're not on the wait list or haven't tried it at all, stay tuned. I'm going to help you. So some of you probably, any cursor users here? Okay, most people. You probably wanted, like, how do I do this without Kuro? This is not a huge pitch for Kuro, but you can do this type of method. Dennis's talk earlier mentioned how he did it with these templates. But there's a few ways. You can essentially tell your agentic IDE, you can use templates, or you can basically say, hey, create a user requirements document. So you can vibe code and be like, create a requirements document based on X. This is the feature that I'm trying to create. And it'll create a document for you. And then you can be like, create a design document. And then based off that requirement. So you'd add the requirements to your context. And then you say, based on those requirements, create a design document. And then it would create that. And then finally, you can have it create the implementation details. And these are the step-by-step tasks that it would need to, that your agentic IDE would need to take to accomplish it. And then you can be like, implement all the things. Start at task 1, end at task 3, and you can do that. The open source community has been amazing. Right after we launched Kuro, there's been this new spec kit. Anybody hear of spec kit? A few people. So there is a like open source frameworks and not frameworks, open source libraries that have made this process easier, that integrate into different IDEs that kind of walk you through these steps. Now, I still think with Kuro we've done it really well. I'm a little biased, but you can have other ways to do it with your other IDEs out there. And by the way, someone asked me the other day, so Kuro is based off Visual Studio, you know, our most of our favorite IDE, I would say, when I go around. Anybody doesn't use Visual Studio Code? What do you use? Vim. I love Vim too. Long-time Vim user. Yeah, I use the Vim extension in VS Code. Not the same though. So let me show you a little bit the way it looks like, and then I'll have time to do a demo. But it looks like this: spec-driven development. You got this. Here's what it looks like. You'll have a panel on the right-hand side of the terminal, and you'll have two options: vibe, as you expected, is vibe coding back and forth, and then spec, which is that deeper, more way to create those deeper requirements. Something that takes a little more in-depth effort that a lot of people are interested in. That's funny. I don't know if Andre Kaparthi ever knew that this term vibe coding would become so popular after he created that tweet just in the last year or two. But we're using the word vibe. So how would you do it? Maybe we'd put in a prompt. You don't. The idea here is you don't have to put in like 20 lines here, because through this process, you're going to prompt it and it's going to create these documents, and then you're going to revise and update them. So in my IDE, in this case Kiro, I put build an MCP server that scrapes my local movie website and deploys it to AWS. I put AWS, but this could be Netlify, Cloudflare. Those of you who are Cloudflare Workers fans. Anything you like in there. And then it would work in the background and create a requirements document. This is a little probably hard to see from where you're sitting, but it has an introduction, it has requirements, acceptance criteria, it has user stories basically. And then at this point you can edit this. There's a little refine button in the top right-hand corner, so if you find out this is not exactly what you want, you can go in, make changes, click the refine, it's going to add some extra information, and you can go back and forth from here. This might be also the time where you bring in your product manager and be like, hey, do you have any feedback? Or project manager, and maybe they can add that to this list. Then there's the design phase. The design phase is we take a look at those user stories, and then we create a document that outlines high level what you're going to do. It might have some ASCII art that explains how the high level architecture is. It might use a mermaid document. Any mermaid document fans? Yep. So that's a nice way to do it. And then once again, you can edit this, update it, and then click refine. Of course, whenever I work with any sort of IDE, it's always good to commit early, commit often, merge back to your branch, make sure you have separate branches, all the good Git version control that we all know and love. You want to do, be especially safe when you're using these toolings, because you have all sorts of things that can go wrong, like inconsistencies, hallucinations, errors, and you can correct those as you continue on. And then finally, you'll get to this implementation phase, which is my favorite part, is when it gives all the different details of what it's going to do to solve this problem. And at this point, it could be very long. It might be a little shorter, but at this point you can go in, update it. You can even go back to the previous steps and click that update tasks button, which would then update these tasks. It's very thorough. It's like an eager intern. It's going to try to do everything it thinks you should do. It's going to try to create a bunch of tests. It's going to do a bunch of things for you. So you're going to have to guide it. You could be like, do steps 1, check it. Oh, don't do as many tests. Let's go to step 2, do this. Or maybe you can say, condense it into like 5 steps instead of 20. But it's very thorough. These documents then are now living inside your code base in the .kiro folder. We recommend that you can commit those to your version control system, and then you can have those. Now, if you like to, there's ways of updating those documents, but they're just kind of like a snapshot in time of what you're trying to accomplish. Now, I can't have an AI talk without MCP. Who uses MCP? Almost every talk has mentioned it a little bit. Of course, MCP is the kind of the USB-C of ways of connecting different tools or agents to different tools. The kind of, I stole this from another presentation, but we have like on the left-hand side for you, we have a bunch of agents. We have the middle, which is our MCP server, and then we have our tools. Now, you're probably thinking, what does this have to do with spec-driven development? Have we gone off the rails here? No, I'm going to tie it back in. This is a great way. Of course, Kiro supports MCP, like many of our other favorite tools out here. We support right now standard I/O, but we should be supporting streamable HTTP and some other nice features soon. The whole MCP world is moving very fast, as you know. However, you can integrate your MCP servers with your spec-driven development design. And we've heard this a lot, that people want, they're telling us like, hey, Eric, I'm a developer. I want to use the spec-driven way of creating my app, but I have a product manager who uses Asana, we use ClickUp, we use Monday, or we have all these different systems. How do I get information from there into the specs? Well, obviously, the easiest way is to like log into those systems and copy and paste. but there can be a better way. And one of those would be to have the specs pull from an MCP server to your project management system service. Now, for us developers, this is kind of boring. Like, who cares? Like, we want to get in there and start playing with the code, but this could be possible. And you can do this a few different ways. It also could just grab technical details for your project. Now, we're using Claude Sonnet 4 in the back. We also have some other things we're doing coming soon. But let's imagine that, of course, our Sonnet 4 isn't on the latest, greatest version of Tailwind. I don't know. Anybody try to use Cursor or different agent and somehow uses Tailwind CSS3 instead of Tailwind CSS4? Anybody ever had that happen, or some older library? So I'm like, no, please use Tailwind CSS4. But then I use my favorite MCP server, Context 7. I don't know if you heard that. It's really, really a great MCP server. It pulls documentation. Then I can use that to grab the latest information on Tailwind. And then you could set rules. We have something called steering files. The same thing like Cursor has rules files. They can be like, hey, anytime you need to go out and find information, use the MCP server to do it. So you can have it go to your MCP. You can set rules files that say, when you're creating specs, make sure you go and grab the correct information using XYZ MCP servers. And so you can grab the project management service MCP. Now, I don't know all the different ones in security. You'll have to look into that, but it is possible. And we are looking at easier ways of doing this. So let me show you a quick demo, because we have a few minutes. So here's what this looks like. This is Curo. Now, if I come back up here, I say, let's create an agent that scrapes my local movie website for the latest movies. And I'm on the spec mode here. Maybe I'll make it a little bigger. And hit enter. Now it's going to look at all the steering files that I have. And I created these beforehand. This says, like, always use Context 7 MCP server when looking up documentation or library information. I have MCP servers down here. A lot of them are disabled because I'm an MCP junkie, and I always have like 20 of them at all times, and it takes longer to load the app when you have a bunch of different MCP servers. So I have that. And then I have a product, structure, and tech. You can actually have these automatically generated for you. All right, so it actually did it pretty quick. So it created the requirements. So now it has some user stories. Here's the requirements, design, and task list. So here's all the user stories. I'm gonna say, move on to design phase. I can also just type in, go for it, or something like that. So now it's gonna go to that, and you can see here, it's using that MCP tool to make sure that as it builds the specs, it has the latest information. It's gonna grab information from my, in this case, Context 7, but it could also grab information from anywhere else as well. So now it's doing a bunch of research for me, which I really like. And I have the structure here, here's the structure, and tech. So before I started, I had to generate all these. You actually can just do Curo, generate project steering documents. As I point to the right screen. There'll also be an option if there's no steering documents. Just a quick while it's working, we do have agent hooks and MCP servers. Agent hooks are like background tasks that you can run that do things for you. Kind of the most common examples is like you can have it update your documentation when you do things. You can also have it create test files. I feel like one day we're just gonna be just vibe coding and creating specs, and no one's gonna ever have to worry about creating tests again. Because like that's like one thing that these agents are really good at, is just creating tests. All right, so it went ahead and created my design document. Let's take a look at that. So here is, come back here, I have design. So here it is. It's a mermaid diagram. You can see that. So let's see what it looks like. I'm going to come here, open in preview. All right, so here it is, design doc. The movie scraper agent will be implemented as strands agent tool. If you don't know, that's like an agent library created by AWS. And it gave us this nice high-level architecture, what it was going to use. It's going to use Bedrock Agent App. That's another AWS service that helps you deploy agents. It's going to kind of tells me high level exactly what it's doing here. And as interaction flow, invoke, and web scraper, it's going to use beautiful soup, I think it says in here somewhere. So it gives me everything I need to get started, which is really nice. Now it's asking, the current task list prioritize core features and marks unit tests as optional. Should we proceed with current MVP focused task list and prioritize core features and mark units? So then I could be like going back and forth so it can maybe better create the task list as I expect it. Here's what it came up with. Like set up project dependencies and core structures. This is in Python, so it's using requirements text, and it tells me all the dependencies it's going to use. I could have used this in Node. Maybe that would have been better for this audience. And here's all the way to like step 9, but each step has like 2 or 3 in it. I'll be like, okay, sure, yes. And now it's going to go perfect. The spec workflow is now complete. I have the requirements document, the design document, implementation plan, and then I could basically say at this point, like start task 1, end at task 2. And then what it's going to do is going to look here at the start tasks and start it. So I'll start with task 1 and complete through task 2. Let me read the spec document. So now it's kind of reading everything again. It's adding everything it needs into the context before it begins. All these files here are already in the context, basically, once you add them. You can also like click this little start task button. So here it is. So now it's telling me it's starting to work on it, which is good. All right, we only have a couple minutes left, so let's jump back into slides for those who are waiting. So to learn more, you can definitely just Google spec-driven development, look at the spec kit, look at Kira.dev, check it out. It's free until the end of this month, and then we're going to have a generous free tier in October, so you can try it out. Since it's still on a wait list, though, I have a QR code for you. If you use this QR code, it's going to ask you about 5 questions to take a quick survey. The first 30 people will get a code, and then you can use that to try Kiro today for free. Thanks. And I got a couple minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a question regarding like outlining markets and feeding your agent enough context around the business itself to know what requirements to generate. So, for example, software engineers at DoorDash, and we have a wide variety of in-house business logic, and documentation around that is scattered, God knows where. Right? So, for example, like when you launch an agent and you're planning, it has context based off the code that it has that's contained in, but it might not know exactly why you're doing it, right? For example, let's say I'm building a feature that wants to reduce the time it takes for a customer to order something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Reduce friction between like choosing items and checking out. We have, let's say, a metric, right? But it might not know what that metric is. So how do you feed it that information?
Yeah, if it's like more ambiguous, like you're doing performance updates, it may not, you have to clearly outline it inside, if using the spec-driven development approach inside the requirements and the design document itself. For those type of things, it may be much more difficult, it sounds like, to get that information into the context. If you can somehow summarize what you're trying to do inside a markdown document and add it into the context, that would be my suggestion. You can also, I showed you there's generate string docs where it even takes large code bases and it puts the most major information and creates 3 different files for you. So having that in the context would help as well. So I think both of those might be the strategy. It might be just take a lot of trial and error to see how it works, like branch it off and then see how it handles different situations like that, where it's not a little more ambiguous.
It's my understanding that the AWS for your product management service is that where most of the database sort of comes where all of the like business logic.
Yeah, yeah, it's like Asana or anything else where you just put in different tasks and people can then pull the tasks from it. And every company uses a different strategy, the way they do that. I think I'm just about out of time, but I'm going to be outside if you guys need any more questions.